My name is Everett Kincaid. I'm 36 years old, and I work as a financial data analyst in Stamford, Connecticut. For most of my adult life, I've valued two things above all else: predictability and discretion. Those qualities aren't just professional requirements in my line of work. They've shaped who I am as a person. I don't chase the spotlight. I don't measure my worth by how many eyes are on me at any given moment. I build systems, solve problems, and let the results speak for themselves. For 4 years, I was in a relationship with Riley Aldridge. She's 33, works in digital marketing consulting, and lives for the exact opposite of what I value. Riley thrives on performance, social capital, the perception of upward mobility. Every week she'd organize dinners in Manhattan, carefully curated events where conversations revolved around who was making moves and who was falling behind. I attended these gatherings because she asked me to, but I never belonged there. And honestly, I never cared to. Until one night changed everything. It was early March 2025. We were at the apartment of one of her friends in the Upper East Side, setting up for yet another performative dinner party. I was arranging silverware on the table when Riley, holding a glass of wine and laughing with that rehearsed charm she uses in social settings, turned to her friends and said, "Everett's great, really, but he's just average, you know? I don't think he can keep up with everything I want for my life." Her friends laughed. Not the polite kind of laughter you give to deflect awkwardness, the kind that validates cruelty. I looked at her, said nothing. There was nothing to say in that moment. Reacting would have been playing her game, and I don't play games I didn't design. If you enjoy stories of cold-blooded revenge and gripping plot twists, like this video and subscribe to the channel now. There are brand new, unreleased stories here every day, each one more intense than the last. Riley always justified comments like that as jokes or necessary truths. She'd say I needed to wake up to my potential, that I was settling for mediocrity when I could be so much more. But the reality was simpler than that. She couldn't stand being with someone who didn't seek validation the way she did. Her love wasn't for me. It was for the version of me she thought she could mold into someone impressive enough to enhance her image. I'd seen the signs for at least 8 months before that night. The subtle shifts in tone, the emotional distance disguised as professional ambition, the growing need for external validation. I noticed all of it, felt it, cataloged it mentally. But I never confronted her, because I knew that confrontation without leverage is just noise. So I waited. While Riley poured her energy into curating her Instagram presence and networking her way through overpriced brunches, the kind where a single meal costs $75 per person, I was working in silence. For 18 months, I'd been involved in a confidential project with an emerging investment firm on Wall Street. My role was to develop a predictive analysis model, a system that could cross-reference risk data in real time, reducing losses and optimizing high-stakes operations before competitors even saw the opportunities. The kind of work that was starting to integrate AI-driven pattern recognition with traditional financial modeling. It worked, better than anyone expected. By late February 2025, my name started circulating internally as the lead architect for the firm's new strategic intelligence department. There were discussions about equity, about bonuses that would eclipse my current salary of $92,000 annually, about a seat at the table where decisions worth tens of millions of dollars were made daily. But I didn't tell Riley any of this, not because I was hiding it, because she never asked. She was too busy deciding I wasn't enough. 2 weeks after that dinner party in late March, I ended the relationship. Not dramatically, not with a grand speech about respect or dignity. I simply told Riley that we weren't compatible anymore, and that I needed to move forward without her. She seemed surprised, maybe even a little offended that I was the one walking away, but she didn't fight it. I think part of her was relieved. Now she could pursue whatever image of success she'd built in her head, without the average boyfriend holding her back. I moved my things out of her apartment over a weekend, kept it clean, kept it civil. Signed off the lease we'd shared, transferred my half of the utilities into her name, and walked away. No drama, no lingering conversations, just a quiet, decisive exit. 3 days later, the announcement went live. The firm I'd been working with published a press release detailing their new strategic intelligence division. My name appeared in financial news outlets, Bloomberg, a couple of smaller columns in the Wall Street Journal, and several fintech-focused newsletters and specialized portals. The articles described me as a key architect in the development of next-generation predictive risk analysis, and mentioned that I'd be leading a team responsible for managing portfolios initially valued at $42 million, with projected growth to over $100 million within 18 months. Within 48 hours, my LinkedIn was flooded with connection requests. Former colleagues, recruiters, people I hadn't spoken to in years suddenly wanted to catch up. But the most interesting messages came from two of Riley's friends, the same ones who'd laughed at her comment about me being average. They reached out separately, both saying essentially the same thing. We had no idea. Riley never mentioned any of this. Of course she didn't. Riley found out about the announcement the way most people in her circle did, through social media and gossip. One of her friends sent her the Bloomberg article with a screenshot, and the caption, "Wait, isn't this your ex?" She called me 4 times that day. I didn't answer. She sent texts, long ones, the kind where you can feel someone spiraling as they type. She wanted to meet, needed to clear the air. Said she was so proud of me and that she always knew I had it in me. I agreed to meet her once. Not because I owed her anything, but because I wanted to make something clear. We met at a coffee shop in Midtown, neutral territory. She walked in looking like she'd prepared for a performance. Hair styled, makeup done, wearing an outfit I recognized as one she reserved for important meetings. She sat down, smiled that rehearsed smile, and started talking before I could say anything. "Everett, I'm so happy for you, really. I always believed in you, you know that. I think maybe we just had bad timing, but I'm glad you're doing well." I let her finish. Then I spoke. "Riley, I'm not here to reconcile. I'm here to tell you that I won't allow someone who publicly humiliated me to have any access to the life I'm building now. You made your opinion of me very clear. I'm just making mine clear too." Her smile faltered. "Everett, I was joking. You know I didn't mean—" "You meant it," I said. "And that's fine, but we're done. Completely." I left $30 on the table for both our coffees and walked out. That was the last time I saw her in person. But it wasn't the last time I heard from her. Over the next 2 weeks, Riley started telling people a different story. According to mutual acquaintances, she was now saying that I'd exaggerated my role at the firm, that I was making it sound bigger than it was to impress people. She even hinted to a few of her closest friends that I'd fabricated the whole thing, that the articles were misleading, and I was just a mid-level analyst trying to look important. It was subtle, calculated. The kind of lie designed to protect her ego without directly attacking me in a way that could be easily disproven. She was counting on the fact that most people wouldn't bother to verify, and that even if they did, the truth was complicated enough to create doubt. But 2 of her friends didn't buy it. The same 2 who'd reached out to congratulate me after the announcement contacted me again in mid-April. This time, they sent screenshots. Audio recordings from a group chat where Riley had explicitly said I was lying about the Wall Street thing, and that I was desperate for validation after the breakup. One of them wrote, "We thought you should know. This isn't right." I thanked them, saved everything, and made a call to the firm's legal department. I explained the situation calmly, factually, without embellishment. I provided the screenshots, the audio files, and a timeline of Riley's statements. The firm's general counsel reviewed everything and referred me to an external attorney who specialized in defamation and commercial reputation cases. His advice was straightforward. In New York, false statements that damage professional reputation are taken seriously, especially in finance. Document everything and send a formal cease and desist letter demanding a full retraction. The letter went out within 72 hours. It was polite, professional, and airtight. It outlined the defamatory statements, referenced the evidence, and made clear that continued false claims about my professional standing could result in legal action for reputational damage. Riley received it at her office. She called me immediately. This time, I answered, "Everett, what the hell is this? You're threatening to sue me." "I'm not threatening anything," I said. "I'm protecting my reputation. You made false statements about my career to multiple people. That's defamation." The letter explains what needs to happen next. "This is insane. I didn't." "You did. I have recordings, screenshots, dates, names. If you want this to go away quietly, you'll issue a retraction to everyone you lied to. If you don't, the attorney will handle it publicly." There was a long silence. "Fine," she said finally. "I'll send something." "Make it complete," I said, "and make it honest." She hung up. Men don't like to admit this, but betrayal hits harder than any punch. When someone lies, cheats, or uses you, it doesn't just hurt internally. It destroys your confidence, your dignity, and your respect. And even men who have never been through it feel that fear of one day being blindsided in the same way. If you know you need to regain that strength, or want to protect yourself to never allow anyone to make a fool out of you, I left some content that will help you in the pinned comment. And if you're watching on TV, just point your phone's camera at the QR code that's showing on the screen. 2 days later, Riley sent the retraction. It was an email, addressed to the same group of friends she'd lied to. I know because one of them forwarded it to me with a single line. "Thought you'd want to see this." The email was short, direct, and exactly what the legal letter had demanded. Riley admitted that she'd misrepresented the facts about my career, acknowledged that the news articles about my position were accurate, and stated that her previous comments had been made out of personal embarrassment rather than truth. She apologized for any confusion her statements had caused. It wasn't flowery, it wasn't emotional. It was a legal necessity dressed up as an apology, and everyone who read it knew exactly what it was. The fallout wasn't immediate, but it was steady. Over the following 3 weeks, Riley's carefully constructed social image began to fracture. The friends who'd once validated her every move started responding slower to her messages. Invitations became less frequent. Group chats went quieter when she participated. The social capital she'd spent years accumulating began to evaporate because she'd violated the one rule that mattered in those circles. Don't get caught lying about something that can be easily verified. One of her former friends told me in early May that Riley had become difficult to trust in their eyes, not because of what she'd done to me specifically, but because it revealed a pattern. If she was willing to lie about her ex-boyfriend's career to protect her ego, what else had she been dishonest about? Who else had she manipulated to maintain her image? Trust, once broken in those kinds of social ecosystems, doesn't get repaired. Riley tried to recover. She posted carefully curated updates on Instagram, motivational quotes about moving forward and learning from mistakes. She attended a few industry events, tried to re-engage with her network, but the damage was done. People were polite, sure, but they kept their distance. No one wanted to be associated with someone whose credibility had deteriorated so visibly. Meanwhile, my life moved in the exact opposite direction. I officially started my new role at the firm in mid-April 2025. The office was in Lower Manhattan, 43rd floor, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the financial district. My team consisted of 8 analysts, 2 data engineers, and a direct reporting line to the chief investment officer. We managed risk assessments for portfolios that started at $42 million, with clear projections to exceed $100 million by year's end. The work was intense. 12-hour days were common, especially in the first few months as we refined the predictive models and integrated them into the firm's existing operations. But it was the kind of intensity I thrived in, problems that required logic, precision, and zero tolerance for error. There was no room for ego or performance, just results. By early June, the models we'd developed had prevented 2 significant losses and identified an acquisition opportunity that the firm capitalized on before competitors even knew it was available. The executive committee took notice. By mid-July, my equity package was finalized, giving me a stake in the division's performance, meaning that if we continued hitting targets, my total compensation would exceed my previous salary by a factor of 4 within 2 years. By late July, I started receiving recognition in circles I'd never been part of before. I was invited to speak on a panel at a fintech conference in Boston about AI integration in predictive risk modeling. The session was well attended. People I'd admired from a distance were suddenly reaching out for collaboration. It wasn't about ego. It was about validation, not from people trying to use me for social clout, but from professionals who respected the work itself. One evening in early August, I was having dinner with a senior colleague from the firm, someone who'd been in the industry for 20 years and had seen every type of personality come and go. We were talking about career trajectories, and he said something that stuck with me. "You know what separates people who last in this business from people who flame out?" he asked. "It's not intelligence. It's not even work ethic. It's the ability to stay calm when everything around you is chaos. The ones who panic, who need constant validation, who make decisions based on how they'll be perceived instead of what's right, they don't survive. But guys like you, you'll be fine." I thought about Riley in that moment, about how she'd built her entire identity on perception, on managing how others saw her, and I understood that her downfall wasn't because of me. It was because she'd built everything on appearance rather than substance. And the moment someone looked closely, it crumbled. Around mid-August, I heard through mutual acquaintances that Riley had left New York. She'd taken a remote consulting position with a firm based in Austin and moved there quietly, without the usual fanfare she'd have given to any major life change. No Instagram posts, no farewell dinners, just a quiet exit from the city she'd once treated as her stage. I registered the information, processed it, moved on. She was no longer part of my life, no longer occupying space in my thoughts. She'd made her choices. I'd made mine. The consequences played out exactly as they should have. By September, I'd settled into a rhythm. Work was demanding but fulfilling. I'd started mentoring 2 junior analysts on the team, helping them develop the same kind of disciplined, methodical approach that had served me well. I reconnected with old friends I'd neglected during the 4 years with Riley, people who valued substance over spectacle. I also started dating again. Her name was Angela. She worked in urban planning for the city. We'd met through a mutual friend in early August, hit it off over a conversation about infrastructure policy, and had been seeing each other regularly since then. She had the kind of quiet confidence that comes from actually knowing what you're doing, rather than needing to convince everyone else that you do. No performance, no validation seeking, just competence. We were walking through Battery Park one evening in late September, watching the sun set over the harbor, when she asked me about my previous relationship. "Not much to explain," I said. "We wanted different things. She prioritized image. I prioritized substance. Eventually, that incompatibility became impossible to ignore." "And you're over it?" Angela asked. "Completely," I said, because it was true. I didn't think about Riley anymore. Not with anger, not with bitterness, not even with satisfaction. She was just someone I used to know. There was no lingering resentment, no unfinished business, just clarity. Angela smiled. "Good, because I don't do drama." "Neither do I said, and that was accurate. Drama requires investment, emotional energy spent on things that don't move you forward. I wasn't doing that again. By October 2025, my division had become one of the most profitable units in the firm. We'd successfully predicted and navigated a market correction that wiped out competitors who'd been operating on outdated models. The executive committee expanded our team, increased our budget by 60%, and gave us authority over additional portfolios. My equity stake increased accordingly. I bought a place in Brooklyn Heights, a solid 2-bedroom condo for $720,000 with a view of the East River. Nothing ostentatious. Just functional space where I could actually live rather than just exist. I started traveling more. Spent a week in Vancouver hiking. Took a long weekend in Charleston. Clear thinking. No noise. Somewhere in that process I understood something. Revenge hadn't been the goal. It had never been about making Riley suffer. It had been about protecting what I'd built and ensuring that someone who'd tried to diminish me publicly couldn't continue doing so without consequences. The retraction wasn't about humiliation. It was about documentation, making sure that her lies were formally corrected. After that, what happened to her socially, professionally, personally, that was entirely her doing, the natural result of her own choices. I didn't have to destroy her. I just had to stop protecting her from herself. One afternoon in early November, I got a LinkedIn message from one of Riley's former friends, the one who'd initially forwarded me the screenshots. We'd stayed in loose contact, the occasional professional update shared back and forth. Her message was brief. Ran into Riley last week. She asked about you. Thought you should know she seems like she's doing better. Therapy, new job, staying off social media mostly. Anyway, hope you're well. I read it, close the app, there wasn't anything to say. I was glad Riley was getting help, but it wasn't my concern anymore, and it didn't change anything about my own trajectory. By mid-November 2025, my life had stabilized. Work was still demanding but rewarding. My personal life was grounded in relationships that felt genuine rather than transactional. I'd reconnected with my brother, who lived upstate, and started visiting him more regularly. I was sleeping better, exercising more, eating actual meals instead of grabbing whatever was convenient. I wasn't chasing anything anymore. I was just living, deliberately, intentionally, on my own terms. Riley had called me average in front of people who didn't know me, hoping to elevate herself by diminishing me. But average isn't an insult when you're building something real. Average is consistency. Average is showing up every day and doing the work without needing applause. Average is the foundation that extraordinary results are built on. I didn't need to be extraordinary in her eyes. I just needed to be excellent in my own. And I was. If you enjoyed this story, like this video and leave a comment letting me know what you thought. And if you're not subscribed to the channel yet, please subscribe and hit the notification bell to get alerts for new stories like this one. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.